Hi, it's Jan Beta, and today I want to upgrade my Amiga 2000, which you can see lying in pieces on my desk of chaos, to the Enhanced Chipset. This particular Amiga 2000 is a Rev 4.3, which came with the original chipset, or OCS, but it can be quite easily upgraded to the Enhanced Chipset, ECS. So the chipset, OCS, ECS, AGA are the three common chipsets found in Amigas. Consists of the Agnes chip, of the Paula chip, and the Denise chip. So the Paula chip has remained basically the same for all of Amiga's history. It's responsible for the sound, and it's also responsible for analog I/O and some disk read-write stuff. Denise is the graphics chip, and it has improved slightly from the original chipset, which this one is an original Denise. It has improved for the ECS in that it supports some more graphics modes, some higher resolution stuff. It's not really that useful for most of the things, but it does, and it's pretty good to have. This is a Fat Agnes. It's labeled Fat Lady on this board. Fat Agnes is responsible for the memory controls, and it's also responsible for the blitter and the copper, which are graphics quirks the Amiga has. This is the OCS version, the PAL OCS version 8371. The NTSC would be 8370, I think. And we are going to upgrade this so it can see more chip memory actually. So these older versions of the Amiga 2000, the 4.x versions, have 1 megabyte RAM soldered directly to the board, which is great, but there is a catch because half of this memory is slow memory and only half of it is chip memory. And I'm going to explain the kinds of memory the Amiga supports in a second. So okay, let me briefly explain what I understand about the different types of memory the Amiga uses. There is chip memory, which has the benefit of being directly accessible by the custom chips, namely like sound, graphics. I'm not going to list them all. Custom chips. So this is directly accessible, and this is the only memory the custom chips can access. Fast memory, on the other hand, is directly accessible by the CPU. So this is exclusively accessible by the CPU. And the custom chips cannot lock the CPU out of using the fast mem, so this is only accessible by the CPU. Whereas if there's only chip mem, the CPU uses chip mem and the custom chips also use chip mem. The chip mem that the custom chips use can't be used by the CPU at the same time, so the custom chips have priority and can lock out the CPU basically. So this can be used by the CPU as well, but the custom chips can lock out the CPU from using the chip mem, so it can slow down the CPU. So more chip mem usually speeds up what the custom chips do, so graphics, sound, etc., but can at times slow down the CPU. In some systems, there's also something that is often referred to as slow memory, which really is fast memory, which it gets a bit confusing. This is really fast memory that can't be accessed by the CPU because it's on the same memory bus as the chip memory. So it slows down the fast memory that it really is. because it's handled like chip mem. So that's basically what the 2 or maybe, if you want, 3 sorts of memory the Amiga has are. This is kind of what an expanded Amiga 500 or an unexpanded Amiga 2000, like in my case, has. This is the fast mem that shares a bus with the chip mem, so it can be slow. And it is counted as slow mem in some software as well. So to prevent that, you just add fast mem, like in my case, on a Zorro card ideally, or something that can be directly accessed by the CPU. The Zorro slots can directly be accessed by the CPU, so that's true fast mem. So ideally you have a lot of chip mem and a lot of fast mem to have the system work as fast as possible. Hope this isn't too confusing for you. I'm a bit confused myself, so if I got something wrong, please correct me in the comments. There's a lot of information about this that is partially contradictory and stuff like that on the internet. I hope I got this halfway right, so yeah, feel free to correct me in the comments. And everyone else, look into the comments. There's probably somebody who knows this in more detail, and you can read up on that in there. So in my configuration, I have 512K chip mem and 512K slow mem, and I want to bring this to this, so I have 1 megabyte, and then I'm going to expand this to I think I have 6 megabytes. So that's going to be quite a good configuration. So in order to convert our memory to all chip memory, we need one of the newer fatter Agneses, Agni, I don't even know, which is the 8372A, which supports both NTSC and PAL, so it's the same chip for both regions. And to bring the Amiga up to full ECS, we also need the Super Denise, which supports the graphics modes of the ECS chipset. The more important upgrade of the two is the 8372A upgrade. You can use 8375. I think the A version is pin compatible, whereas the 8375's later models are not pin compatible with this. So make sure you get the right chip for the right board that you have if you want to upgrade. I think the 8375 can also support 2 megabytes of chip RAM, which we don't have in this Amiga. There are ways to upgrade that, but I'm not going to cover it in this video. Maybe at some point. The Super Denise is just after you have 1 megabyte of chip RAM, which you need to support the newer graphics modes. You just plug this in instead of the original Denise. So let's do it. The benefits of ECS really are having more graphics modes, like a super high-res mode and stuff like that. And also you can switch between NTSC and PAL with like a little menu if you have a Kickstart that's, I believe, newer than 2.04. And the ECS chipset, actually, the Kickstart 1.3 will work in this system, but the ECS graphics modes and stuff have to be addressed, especially in software, which I don't believe any software does that really. So if you want to use the ECS graphics modes, you got to use a newer Kickstart ROM. Just to show you, this is an original chipset PAL machine. We're going to convert it in a second. Let's see the memory. There's 0.5 megabytes chip, 0 fast, and 0.5 megabytes slow RAM. We are going to put our memory expansion that I already showed in the previous videos back in. I have nothing connected except for the disk drive at the moment, so it's an original Amiga 2000 basically without the case. So let's see if we can upgrade this to ECS and 1 megabyte chip RAM. By the way, Gadget UK 164 did a video about the 1 megabyte chip RAM conversion recently, and he shows some more tinkery bits, and I'm just going to straight up do it and talk a bit about the different kinds of memory the Amiga supports to kind of be a complementary video to his video. I watched that, and it's a very good video. I'm going to link that in, as many of his videos are. It's a very good video and very informative, and he shows different ways of doing this, and I'm just going to do it the easiest way that I've found, and I'm going to talk about a bit about what I do while I'm doing it, basically. So we're using this PLCC extractor, which is just a cheap one that I actually got with my EEPROM programmer, I think. Don't use like screwdrivers or anything like that, because basically you are going to mess up the socket, and there's a lot of pins underneath there. You don't want to resolder that. I actually did that on an Amiga 500 I repaired some time ago, like 2 years ago or something. I'm going to link that video in here. That was pretty messed up because somebody tried to pry it out with the screwdriver. You can use the holes in the board to poke through from the bottom and try to get it out, but by far the safest, and these are like $1 or something, these are very, very cheap, get one of these. You can also use these to pry out other chips. Doesn't work that well, but it does work to some extent. Okay, let's insert the new chip there. By the way, these are new old stock chips that I got from Vesalia Computer in Germany, which is like, they are a Commodore and other computers reseller for like since back in the day, I guess. And yeah, very highly recommended. They still have some of these new old stock chips from 92, I believe. Yes, 18th week 92, it says here. Nice. So these have a little dot where the 1 is, and on the board you see a little 1, which you don't see because the camera is pointing the wrong way. So there we are. There's our 1, that's pin 1, and pin 1 is actually the pin that's marked with this dot here. Then you carefully, we should clean this up a bit. No, it looks clean. There's a little arrow on the socket, and there's a 1 on the circuit board. So we can align this properly. Just push it down gently, and now it sits nicely in there. So in order for this to work correctly, we have to do some slight modifications to the board, or rather set some jumpers accordingly. This is J101, which is right next to the power connector on the board here, and we just have to switch this to the other position. Which will move the second bank of RAM into the chip RAM range of memory. Or so the internet says. Hope it's going to work. Then we have J102, which is this little one here. This sets NTSC or PAL. If it's closed, it's PAL, as on this Amiga. And if we cut it, it's NTSC or switchable. So we have to cut this for this to work correctly, I think. So I don't know if you can see this. There's a very small trace between these two pads, which say J102. And we want to cut this little trace between these. Using my new knife, which I got from Jacob. Thank you again. Okay, no connection there anymore. Nice. And then we have to also cut J500, which is above the Gary chip and close to the CIA chips. Yeah, it's the same basically, we just cut the little trace in the middle there between the two pads. My knife! It's sharp and chrome! Yep. Oh, and J500 allows for the memory address that the memory now lies in to be decoded as RAM. According to the internet again. I don't know exactly how this works, but supposedly this is now a 1 megabyte chip RAM machine already. Let's check. Okay, so it has 1 megabyte chip RAM now, 0 fast, 0 slow. And interestingly, it also states it's an ECS PAL Amiga already, without the ECS Denise in it even. Interesting. It probably recognizes the ECS Agnes as an ECS chipset, because usually the computers that had the fatter Agnes were ECS, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong there. I think they were also used in Amigas that were using the OCS chipset actually, and only, they basically stopped making the 8371s at one point, I guess. So for enabling the new screen modes, we also have to replace the Denise chip. First of all, let me put the old Agnes away. And here's our Denise, which we are going to replace with that. So we are going to extract the OCS Denise. Wow, okay. That was in there quite tightly, surprisingly. Even though these sockets are single wipe sockets, as with most Commodore machines. So, which is not good, actually. They are not very... Usually they are not holding up very well against the test of time. So let's see if I can get this out here without... Yeah. So let's see. This should go in here. And now we should have an ECS machine. Let's see if it works at all still. So it still says ECS, obviously. But it still works, which is a good thing, I guess. Let's see the video test. That doesn't say anything, really. Okay. Oh, what we can try is to use the startup menu. That should let us switch between NTSC and PAL now. Let's try that. So in order to access the boot menu, we just have to push both mouse buttons while starting up the machine, and we should enter the boot menu for Kickstart 2 and up. There we are. Okay, so this is obviously Kickstart 3.1.4, Amiga Early Startup Control. Press any key to toggle between PAL and NTSC. Okay. Display options. Yes, and we can choose the original and the enhanced chipset type and the display type. Nice! So we can actually switch this back in software, really, to the original chipset, which is pretty handy for some stuff that doesn't work with the ECS stuff. It doesn't work as well as if it was hardware OCS, but mostly it works. And this now is exactly like the Amiga 2000 I had back in the day, I think. Except for it's missing a lot of expansion stuff. The general setup is the same as my machine that I am aiming to recreate with this series. The seemingly never-ending series of Amiga 2000 upgrades and tinkering and repairs, actually. So, yeah. This was a success. Let's see if we can see the new graphics modes. For that purpose, I think I'm going to put this back together. One last thing before I put this back together. Let me just quickly solder in this battery adapter. This is one that Edu Arana makes. So Edu Arana at AranaNet kindly donated this and some other stuff you're going to see in upcoming videos, also Amiga related. Yeah, this is like a little coin cell adapter that has a diode in it that prevents it from being charged by the original circuitry. So this is like an easy way of having a coin cell battery in there. So I'm just going to solder this in. I have to clip one of the leads off, I think, because my mainboard doesn't have 3 holes on the one side, but that's not much to do. I think I have to scrape away some of my solder mask here that I added. I'm just going to cut the middle leg. There it goes. By the way, if you didn't see that part of the restoration of this Amiga, you should definitely watch it. Because if you have an Amiga 2000 that still has the battery in it, the original battery, you should immediately remove it at least, or better still, repair the board. Okay, there we are. Boots fine. I have my 1 MB of graphics mem, which is the same as chip mem, and 5 MB of other RAM, or like 4. It's originally, I think it's 6 MB. So this already reacts a bit faster now. That's interesting. Okay. So that definitely makes a difference in terms of quick reaction and stuff. Interesting. So how do we test the graphics modes? Of course, we're just going to go to the screen mode. This should now display, yes, this displays now, before we had high res and low res in the interlaced and non-interlaced versions, and now we have super high res, which should work. Let's see, test. Preparing display. There we go. Okay. So that's another one. Requires ECS. There we are, and this is interlaced, so it flickers, and it flickers even weirder on camera because, yeah, I can't get the frame rate exactly right, I guess. But that's 1280 by 512 pixels. This is now officially an ECS Amiga 2000. And there's obviously more to come. I'm not done with this Amiga yet, so expect more videos. I'm just going to see if the clock works actually. So February 2018, which it isn't. It is October 3rd it is, and the year is 2019. Save. Okay, so let's see if the clock still works. Battery backed up clock. Yes, and that's the time. Seems to work fine. Nice! So this is now fully working, it seems. So this concludes this part of the Amiga 2000 adventures, like a never-ending story of Amiga 2000 upgrades. And there's still a lot of things coming up, probably something else in between, so it's not getting too boring on this channel. But I'm so in love with this machine, and there's so much I want to do with it, that there's definitely going to be a lot more Amiga 2000 videos. Yeah, so much for now. I hope this was informative. Glad it turned out to work fine. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this. Many thanks to my Patreon supporters that are going to be rolling in the credits. So, hope you stay tuned for more. So much for now. I'm Jan Peter. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.